Okay, welcome to our next edition of the Aitken Aitken Cohn Staff Spotlight, and I'm very pleased to have with me Michael Penn, one of my partners and longstanding members of our firm. And thank you, Michael, for joining us.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, happy to be here.
Well, let's start at the beginning. Before you got to the firm, tell us a little bit about where you grew up.
I grew up in Tustin, Orange County. So I'm an Orange County native. Went to Hughes Middle School, Foothill High School, and but I do have roots in LA. My parents owned a small wholesale produce business out in Paramount in LA County. So I was able to at least see both sides of Orange County and LA and get a better appreciation for both counties.
Tell me about kind of how you grew up with your family in a produce business, and what did you do?
So my grandfather started the business, and he started out by delivering produce to, I guess you'd call them meal trucks, catering trucks. And that was the start. At that time, construction was booming all throughout Southern California. So that was the main industry. And then slowly it moved to selling and delivering produce directly to restaurants, a lot of fast food chains. And my parents were school teachers, both public school teachers at Dominguez High School in Compton. My mom was the French teacher. My dad was the government teacher. They met in a teacher's lounge, were set up basically by another teacher and hit it off and got married. And then ultimately, my dad worked in aerospace and then went into taking over my grandfather's business and took it over. And my parents worked together. And so I grew up in that business of schlepping and loading trucks and using the forklift and inspecting pallets full of tomatoes and avocados and everything. And we would sell that to a lot of fast food restaurants throughout Southern California and executive cafeterias.
Well, let me ask you this. Throughout that time, kind of growing up in produce, did being a lawyer was that part of your path? Is that something you learned later? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, growing up as a small kid, on summer break, I always wanted to go and see what my dad did when he had to go work at night and leave the house at midnight or 1 a.m. And on summer break, when I was 7 or 8 years old, I was finally allowed to go with him, and I'd get bundled up and go with him to the LA Terminal Market. And so walking around the market, you'd see all sorts of activity, all these people working in the middle of the night. And everybody you encounter would say to me, don't ever go into the produce business, kid. You need to become a doctor or a lawyer. I wasn't that attuned to science at the time, but the law always intrigued me. And so I think that did instill in me some direction very early on.
So that eventually led you into the law school. So tell me where you went to law school and your experience there.
So I went to law school at Chapman back in Orange County. And that's largely due to your sister, my wife. So I fell in love with your sister when she was in law school and I was working in the produce business. And I was considering law school before I even met her. I thought I was going to go to the East Coast, and I was looking at schools back east. But obviously I was quite taken with your sister, and she asked me about whether I would consider going to school in Southern California. And I had some friends that were already enrolled at Chapman, and it was close to where my parents lived. And I thought I could save money by going there, and the school showed a lot of promise. And so that's what I decided to do.
So how long have you been with us now at Aitken Aitken Cohn?
Probably seems like forever, right, Chris? No, for going on 16 years as a lawyer.
Yeah.
I think 18 otherwise. So you've been stuck with me ever since.
And so tell me about the areas of law that, through these last, 16, 18 years that you specialize in, and I guess your areas of specialty.
So I primarily focus all on personal injury plaintiff victim, but primarily in the fields of trucking, auto, and products liability, premises liability, as well as government liability. So that's my primary focus. I do assist where needed on other matters, but that's my focus.
I'm sure you feel the same way, Michael. I mean, I love being a lawyer. I love, every case is different. You kind of become, the expertise in these different kinds of cases. Tell me about some of the cases that really are special to you that you've worked on. I mean, I appreciate that all cases are special, but what are some of the more memorable cases that you have worked on?
Well, what immediately, obviously, we've worked on a lot of confidential matters that we can't talk about. I would like to talk about some of those. But you and I have also worked on some really incredible cases. Particularly comes to mind is a trucking case we did where our victim was in a coma for nearly a year following the incident. And that was really incredible to see all that he went through and his family went through, but also to see the incredible work of the medical team that was behind him that really got him through. And it was incredible to see him come out of that coma nearly a year after the accident and allow us to do our work and get him back. Obviously, when you're in a coma for that long, you suffer a lot. He was never able to regain the ability to swallow, and he did lose a limb. But that was very meaningful to see his family rally around him. He was one of the members of the Greatest Generation, fought in the Korean War, and at the end, all he wanted to do was eat a taco. That was the only regret. We couldn't get him back to that, but we were able to get him a really substantial amount that allowed him to live the rest of his life very comfortably and meaningfully after all that he'd been through, and that meant a lot. That one sticks out the most. Obviously, other cases we worked on, some of the larger, more well-known cases that our firm has handled, the Chatsworth Metrolink disaster railroad cases, or the Leilani Gutierrez case where a young girl was rendered a ventilator-dependent quadriplegic. I started on that when I was really young. And of course, the Disney cases, when I first started as a legal intern here at the firm that you were handling, I got to work on the tail end of the Big Thunder Mountain Rail disaster case. And that was fascinating to see all that went into that products case and what happened there.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I want to kind of get a little bit personal here. Tell me, when you are not working, what are some things you most likely might be doing?
So if I'm not working, I am with my family. I'm with my 3 beautiful daughters. They're young. I've got junior high age and one in early elementary school age. So we're busy, and I love to be with them the most. I have 3 beautiful daughters, so I'm surrounded by wonderful women. If I'm not with them, I try to be with other members of my family. I do enjoy tennis and golf, although I'm a terrible golfer. And that's really about it. What's that?
But a very good tennis player. This I know.
This we get to do together.
And if I recall, I think we did win one of your tournaments, I think at your dad's club or your family's club, if I recall. So I think we did.
That's right. We were club champions, you and I together. We were able to win a tournament back when it was good. You made me look, I think you helped me impress your sister, my future wife, with that tournament victory.
That was the closing thing, huh, Michael?
maybe she thought that was it. If we could actually win a tournament. No.
Exactly. So let me ask you this. What now, with COVID, what's been kind of your go-to activities? Tell me about some of the things you've been doing during this time.
Well, I would say it's challenging. The one thing I've tried to get back into is getting in good enough shape to start jogging again. And then with the rules of what happened with the pandemic, I did try to get into golf. And like I said, I'm a terrible golfer, but I've had about 3 lessons now, so I'm just enough to be really dangerous. But I do appreciate the sport more now for the walk in the park it allows. So I do enjoy walking when I play. I wish it didn't take as long to play, but that can't be helped.
That's why they created 9 holes, Michael.
or maybe we should just do 6.
Exactly. Tell us what would maybe surprise people about you, some of the things that maybe people would not know.
I think a lot of people don't know that I used to live in Japan. I studied Japanese when I was an undergrad and really fell in love with the language and the culture. I studied abroad my junior year when I was an undergraduate student at UC Santa Barbara and went to study at a university in downtown Tokyo called Sophia University. And after I graduated from Santa Barbara, I went back and I took a job with a Japanese company that was kind enough to hire me and they were a high-tech measurement and data company. And I worked in their overseas communication department and did minor proofreading and editing and other minor research tasks. And that was a great opportunity. And since then, I've tried to keep up with studying Japanese when I can on the weekends. And I also try to torture my kids with forcing them to learn some Japanese, and that's fun.
Well, I know they have learned a lot of French. I know your mom teaches French. So they have indulged you in Japanese as well?
They tolerate, to a certain extent, my wanting them to learn Japanese. It's hard. They know how hard a language it is to get in, but they've been open to it somewhat. It's hard.
It is. As one that has a daughter that's learning Chinese for the first time, I will respect. I'm not saying it's the same as Japanese, but I will respect the process.
Yeah. As you know, Japanese, a lot was borrowed from the Chinese language, but I think the main thing is that it's important for them to try. It obviously would be helpful if we could travel there and inspire them that way. That's obviously what inspired me once I saw the country itself. That's hard with the pandemic in these times, but it's important that you understand, even though you see a language that seems so foreign and so intimidating, at the end, we're all very connected. And if you're able to start communicating and break down through those barriers, that's what's important. And that's why I like pushing them in that regard, because it really does allow you to connect with people that you'd think there's some barrier from you to being able to communicate with. And once you start breaking through those barriers, that's what it's all about.
What would you want the client to know about you, and what would you want the client to know about the firm?
I think it's important for clients to recognize that this really is a family firm. I say that not because I'm married to your sister, but really the way that we approach each case really is family oriented. What's nice and what has always impressed me, I grew up in a family business, and here I'm in another family business. But the way we treat our clients, we give it our all. It is all consuming to us, and it's their issue that takes priority with all of us. All we care about is doing right by the client and taking care of them as if they were our brother or sister, son, daughter, aunt or uncle or grandparent. And that, I think, is what might be lost. People don't realize just how hard this firm works to make sure that we can protect them going forward from whatever traumatic experience they've been through. I think oftentimes people don't realize how much goes into that, and how important it is that you have a firm that understands when it's your case, it's the most important case. And if we're going to agree to represent you, we are going to do everything possible to get you through that dark tunnel and get you to the other side where there's some light and you can have some security and peace and move yourself forward.
Well, thanks, Michael, for being part of the staff spotlight. I really appreciate it, and be talking to you soon.
Well, I look forward to seeing you in person.
Agreed. Thanks, Michael.
All right, stay safe. Bye-bye.